everybody, I'm Imani, your holistic astrological life coach, and today we're talking about Pluto Retrograde 2026. So typically Pluto goes retrograde once a year for about 5 months. So here's this year's retrograde and what it means for us all. So it's going into retrograde at the 12th degree of Capricorn, 6th of May, 10:05 GMT time, and the theme is the institution eats itself from within. So Pluto, the planet of death, transformation, rebirth, complete change, power, and what's buried, what we hide, right? Goes retrograde on the 6th of May, as I said, but this isn't an ordinary one, because while it's retrograde, it goes out of bounds, out of limits, beyond the decalation of 23.5, which I'm going to tell you what all that means in a while on the 11th of August, and then it goes direct on the 16th of October 2026. So ultimately it's 3 events and 1 transformational retrograde. So Pluto is the planet that exposes rot, it dismantles, pulls apart power structures, brings out our repressed, our hidden desires, forces endings, death upon us. So rebirth can happen, so it gets us outside of our comfort zone so we can get into where we're meant to go. And sometimes Pluto does this in a harsh way in astrology. So like Saturn, it's got a bit of a stick of being a no planet, and it's in Capricorn, which Saturn rules Capricorn, right? So it's the sign of government, corporations, institutions, authority, and Pluto has been demolishing everything that's been corrupt since 2020, because in Sigil Vedic Astrology, which this is all based on, that's when Pluto went into Capricorn, and that's where it still is. And now it's time for us to go internal with that ending, that demolition, that letting go work as Pluto goes retrograde. Then when it goes out of bounds in August, right, this is when we go beyond our normal limits, and it's basically operating without astrological guardrails. So this is Pluto saying to you, you thought the external outside destruction was intense, and we're really going through it with governments collapsing, wars and all of that, and all the infighting that we're doing as human beings, So Pluto saying, well, you thought that was crazy? Well, watch what happens when I go internal and break all the rules. And the Sabian symbol, the 12th degree of Capricorn, which has the symbology of a student of nature, lecturing, teaching. So someone who studied the laws of how things work and now is teaching that to others. And this rules the right knee joint, because Capricorn rules our knees in astrology, right? And so this is the hinge that bears the weight of our legs, right? The bridging the upper legs, the thighs and the lower legs, and it allows us to change direction. So ultimately Pluto going retrograde is asking, what have you learned about power, death and transformation since 2020? And that's when we had the lockdowns and COVID and everything, a lot of change, a lot of relationships broke down, a lot of internal struggles with who are we, who are we when we are not allowed to go about our day-to-day normal routine, what was normal, and now we're kind of still in this new normal. Things have changed, and it's never going to be the same before it was 2020. So it's asking you to ask yourself, what patterns have you observed in how institutions collapse and break apart, how authority corrupts, and we have a lot of fake news that's everybody knows what that means now, and all of that corruption, and and how control destroys what it tries to preserve and look after, right? A lot of corruption in our healthcare systems, in our governments across the world. And because now you're the lecturer, you studied this long enough, it's time to teach what you know about personal power, systematic rot. So whether, sometimes you think there's so many people speaking out, well, we've all come from different communities, have different childhoods, even though we may go through similar themes in our childhood, have rejection, abandonment, forms of abuse, physical, emotional, heartbreak, family struggles, and, because we, all been brought up in different nations, cultures, even in the same countries. There's different subcultures and ways of doing things, so Pluto is saying, teach, whether you think that it's out there or not. There's people out there, as I keep on saying, who will only listen to a message in the way that you're going to teach it, right? So it's about, when Pluto goes retrograde, is a time for us to think about the things that we need to end, the things that we need to change, so we can sort of be rebirthed through the destruction and letting go of what we need to let go of. So as I said, it's 3 events. We've got Pluto going retrograde, out of bounds, then direct out of retrograde. 3 events, 1 narrative, right? So if you live in Pacific time, it's happening at 3:05 a.m. on the 6th of May, Mountain Time 4:05 a.m, Central Time 5:05 a.m, Eastern Time 6:05 a.m, European Time at 12:05 p.m, and Indian Time 3:35 p.m, all on the 6th of May. So ultimately we've got 5 months of Pluto retrograde. For 2 of those months, Pluto's going to be out of bounds and retrograde as well, and then it goes direct on the 16th of October and stays another 2 months or so to the 10th of December 2026. So when Pluto's out of bounds, it's operating without normal astrological restrictions, allowing us to dig deeper than usual, exposing what even Pluto usually keeps hidden retrograde, right? Because it's out of bounds, so it's really it's doing the wild one. So ultimately, Pluto entered the pre-shadow phase on the 11th of January 2026 at the 8th degrees of Capricorn. It goes retrograde on the 6th of May, out of bounds on the 11th of August. It goes direct on the 16th of October and leaves the post-shadow zone when it goes back to the 12th degree of Capricorn, where it went retrograde in, right, on the 7th of February 2027. So we're going to be affected by this retrograde right up until then, right? So as I said, we're going to be focused on themes of power, authority, institutions, ambition, and integrity of governments and structure. And as I'm talking about this in 2026, we are already deepening the questioning, even though this has been going on for years now. But this year, as I'm recording this in March, it's a very crazy time right now, a very uncertain time. So Pluto going retrograde is when things get excavated, dug up on Earth, right? The hidden is revealed. Our relationship with power, personal and systematic, comes under the spotlight, where we have compromised to maintain a position, what authority figures have done that we've been too afraid to name, what institutions have you propped up whilst they're rotted from within. You may work for an organisation and you may start to question it, right? And, speaking out against authority figures that have hurt you, you may have been scared, you may still be scared as Pluto goes retrograde, but as the retrograde goes on, you may, that fear may go and you may speak up. And you can also ask yourself, what goals and habits and day-to-day routines, relationships have cost you your soul, your values, your integrity, your sense of self. Pluto goes internal with these questions. The out of bounds period removes all the safety protocols and nets and all of that. By the time it stations direct in October, you will know exactly what needs to die so you can live. And like Leonard Cohen sings in the song Anthem, look it up, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So this isn't about fixing the cracks in the system. This is about recognizing the whole structure is cracked beyond repair, and that's exactly where the light enters. That's where we should gather in our communities, in our families, in our nations, and change it, forgetting our differences, or at least trying to make that middle ground. I'm an optimist, so what can I say? So yeah, the Pluto retrograde wants us to let the light in, in through the cracks, right? So we've got 6 aspects that are influencing the whole retrograde period. So in astrology, whatever aspects a planet is making when it makes a transition, in this case the retrograde, right, this is gonna, all these aspects are gonna flavour the whole 5 months Pluto's in retrograde this year. So we've got Mercury making a square to Pluto, so this brings tension to our communication and power, and it's not strong because it's separating, but it's still going to influence how we communicate and how power is shown through communication, and this is going to add to the tension in the ways that we communicate. We've got Pluto trining the ascendant, so again it's focusing on that personal transformation that's open to us all, and it can flow really easy if we're open to personal change and take the steps, right? It's not just about affirming, it's about changing your day-to-day behaviours. And then we've got Pluto bringing the Queen Quartz to the midheaven, so it's going to bring to our attention the things we need to change in our careers and our sort of like going after power. Why are we chasing power and status? All of that needs to be adjusted, right? And in terms of applying aspects, we've got Uranus trining Pluto, so this allows for us to be revolutionary in the ways that we transform, but do it in a slow, steady way rather than a disruptive way. And then we've got Neptune's set styling Pluto, which is the ongoing aspect going on for years, right? And this allows us to let go of our spiritual bypassing and to transform by becoming more self-empowered and letting go of the things that disempower us and our spiritual and religious illusions, what we have wrong about what it means to be spiritual or religious. And then we've got Pluto making a semi-set star to the North Node, and this allows us to bring our destiny in alignment with our bring our life into alignment into our destiny and our higher consciousness, right? So we've got Neptune, we've got 5 Sabian symbols influencing this retrograde, right? So Neptune at the 10th degree of Pisces, at Aviator in the clouds, so this allows us to sort of deal with, navigate the formlessness, the things that, the unknown, right? The things that we feel but can't necessarily explain, and to kind of pilot through the letting go, navigate and deal with the ending of toxic relationships, behaviours and careers and all of that, and to gain a higher perspective, to be open to new awareness, right? Whether it be emotional awareness, psychological or spiritual. And then we've got Mercury at the 13th degree of Aries, so this is a bomb which failed to explode, is now safely concealed. So this reminds us, allows us to have, like, there will be damage in this retrograde, but it can be contained, not eliminated, not gone. Pluto retrograde is Pluto we're dealing with. It's going to blow things up, it's going to bring things into the open, but it's going to also show us our hidden potential. And time's going to feel like it's suspended and stopped still for a bit because it's internal, right? For things are going to slow down in terms of the 8th house stuff, transformation and joint resources and all of that. Uranus is at the 7th degree of Taurus, so this is a woman of Samara coming to draw water from the well. So we can have out of making friendships with people outside of our normal friendship group, and this is really, really good, right? We need that energy because there's a lot of tension between different cultures in my countries, in many countries across the world right now, and we have to try and meet each other's needs and allow others to have their voice and claim rights, as well as standing up for our own rights, but meeting in the middle as well. The moon's north node is at the 12th degree of Aquarius, so this has the Sabian symbology of people and stairs graduated upwards. So this is about us transcending as a collective, leveling up in our beliefs, coming together, graduating from the lower expressions of blame and hate and othering other people and division, and supporting each other's climb, supporting each other, right? And we've got 2 T-squares between the moon, Sagittarius that's where the moon is, moon in Sagittarius, Saturn in Pisces, and the midheaven in Gemini. So this allows us to be open to emotional truth, right? But also thinking about truth, emotional truth versus structural disillusionment, letting go, splitting endings of, sort of like toxic systems that hide our spiritual and emotional truths, right? And also putting a spotlight on how we communicate in our careers as well. And they can also, our emotional truth can be fighting structural endings right now, and career communication can have frictions between all these three right now. And Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, the midheaven in Gemini, and the ascendant in Virgo is the other T-square, right? So this allows us to bring routine and structure to our spiritual and religious, which is supporting the Sabian symbology, right? But we may also have to question our spiritual and religious selves and our sort of like beliefs and how they show up in public, and our identity to serving others, right? And we need to integrate our spiritual religious beliefs, our public image, and how we serve others, right? And then we have a grand trine between Uranus in Taurus, the ascendant in Virgo, and Pluto in Capricorn. So it's Earth trine, so it allows us to be grounded as we sort of like rethink how we give back to others, how we allow power to transform, and how we allow ourselves to have revolutionary thoughts and change our values and beliefs in a revolutionary way. And all these flow together, so we can handle our second house right now, our inner values, our sense of beauty, our Virgo, how we look at 6th house stuff, day-to-day routine, how we look after our health, and Pluto 10th house stuff, how we show up in public, right? How we show authority, so we can ground that and make changes there. And then we have one yard, which is the finger of fate, between Mercury in Aries, Saturn in Pisces, and the ascendant in Virgo. So this can add to the explosive communications that can happen over the 5 months Pluto's in retrograde. It allows us once again to bring spiritual structure to our day-to-day life, and sort of like come more into our authentic self-expression. And then we have a grand cross between the moon in Sagittarius, Saturn in Pisces, and the midheaven in Gemini, and the ascendant in Virgo. So this brings a four-way pull between our emotional expression and growth, our spiritual routine and structure, how we voice and show up in our careers, and how we show up in serving others, right? So for some of us it can be like having a cross to bear. We can just have to sacrifice, how we over-sacrifice and people please is being brought to our attention as well. So now I'm just going to give some guidance for all of the 12 sun, moon and rising signs, and that will end the summary version. And then I'm going to go deeper into the Vedic layer, looking at the Natsakras and the Pada, talking about the aspects in more details, and the transiting aspects like the T-squares and the yard. Then I'm going to look more into the Sabian symbology and talk about the shadow work and how you can survive this Pluto retrograde 2026 and all that good stuff. So you can find your sun, moon and rising sign in your natal chart and read all three if you know where all three of your sun, moon and rising sign are. If you just know your sun sign, just read what I'm about to say for your sun sign. So for Aries, Pluto is retrograding in your 10th house of career and public image. So these relationships and your relationship with authority and your own empowerment is under the spotlight. So your professional identity can reveal, decay, what's not good, and your kind of like barriers to being seen and being known, right? Can transform. So maybe if you're always out there, then you may want to be more reclusive, or if you're afraid of being seen, you may want to teach the Sabian symbol, the student of nature now lecturing, teaching, right? So authority figures may show corruption, and your outward success built on inner compromises becomes unbearable now. So it's going to be brought to your attention where you're living a lie, right? And and you're going to want to change that. So watch out for career toxicity, public image feeling false and authority, your sense of self or authorities around you collapsing. And by February 2027, your career reflects the depth work. So some of you may go into a new role or the same role, but you have a completely different approach to how you go about your day-to-day work, right? For Taurus, Pluto is retrograding in your 9th house of belief, philosophy and meaning. So your belief systems, understanding of meaning get demolished and changed. What you thought was truth, you may not see as truth anymore. So yeah, your religion, spiritual worldview reveals cracks. Higher education can solve corruption right now. Truth you were taught versus truth you have lived can collide, and we have to, watch out for beliefs that require you to look deeper into them. And, your sense of self, the belief systems, can collapse suddenly. Suddenly believe, I don't believe this anymore. You could have believed in this belief since you were a child, right? So, you can need more truth right now, and sort of like want to create a new belief system that reflects your actual lived experience, not the, inherited doctrine from your nation or your parents or culture. For Gemini, Pluto is retrograding in your 8th house of death, said resources. So Pluto's at home here, and this is the most comfortable placement for Pluto because it rules this house, right? Or co-rules it with Mars, however you want to look at it. So your inheritance, said resources, sexuality and death, endings. Your work life can become intense. Other people's money, other people's power, intimate exchanges can all be under the spotlight and looked into. You may examine all of these taboos, your desires that you hide, that you feel ashamed of. Your kinks can surface and come to your attention, and you can just feel uncomfortable with your shadow right now. So inheritances or lack of them can reveal family dynamics, shared resources, control issues, and exploring your sexuality in depth can happen right now. And by February 2027, you can be more intimate with death, rebirth cycles, literal or metaphorical. For some of you, some of you may go deep down into your family relationships and think about, if one sibling's favoured over the other and why. Maybe if inheritance is going to one and not the other, or you may give up your inheritance to go out on your own, and you may be tired of like a parent holding their belief systems or money over you, and you may cut ties or stuff like that, or you can be the parent that a child cuts ties with. So for Cancer, Pluto is retrograding in your 7th house, right, of partnerships and relationships, and they come under the spotlight of facing rebirth and death, endings and beginnings, right? So all your partnerships, whether it be friendships, romantic and businesses, can be looked into. What's built on performance can die, and what's built on truth can deepen. Power dynamics can become more visible and unbearable for some of you now. So watch out for partnerships that reveal imbalances, contracts needing renegotiation and ending, and relationships requiring honesty, right? And by, the end of the shadow period next year in February, your relationships can, if you're willing to work towards it, and then being so right, can reflect actual connection, not performed harmony. So for Leo, Sun, Moon and Rising, Pluto retrogrades in your 6th house of work, health and service. So your daily routines, work environment, health patterns, services, how you serve others, right, can be dismantled, ruined and then rebuilt. And remember, Pluto destroys things for them to be built better, or for entirely new things to be built, right? So maybe for you, Leo, your job can become unbearable, your health or some other crisis can demand attention right now, and the way that you give to others can be exploited, or you can exploit others under the guise pretending it's a service, right? If you are being exploited, then you can no longer tolerate it, or if you are exploiting others, you may not be able to live with yourself for doing so anymore, and may decide to turn over a new leaf. So watch out for work toxicity that comes up, health issues, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, that require your attention, and daily patterns that show dysfunction, right? And if you do this, your daily life can reflect more of a healthy balance as you bring more self-care into your day-to-day life and give up self-sacrifice. For Virgo, Pluto is retrograding in your 5th house of creativity, romance, and our inner child and children, right? So your right to play, create, feel happiness, and to take a risk, get examined, so creative blocks can reveal their purpose. Romance patterns can show where you have been performing versus genuinely feeling, right? And if you are a parent, right, power dynamics in how your parent can come to your attention, or if you are a child, power dynamics with your parents can come to attention, and this can cause tension in those relationships. Remember that happiness is a serious business. Pleasure requires vulnerability. Creativity demands facing what you would rather avoid, right? So in terms of creative projects, make room for them. Be more romantic with yourself and others if you are in a relationship. Bring more honesty into your creativity and your sense of self and romance. And by February 2027, your creative expression can reflect your actual true self, not your performed self, right? So for Libra, Sun, Moon and Rising, Pluto is retrograding in your 4th house of family, home and foundation. So your roots, origins, family and dynamics, your private life, all come under the spotlight. Family secrets can be unearthed and dug up, or just resurface because they were never dealt with in the first place. Home can be unbearable for some of you, or it can transform, it can get better, right? Or it may be unbearable to become better, so try and practice active listening, create safe spaces, right? And just try and be more attentive. So ultimately, your emotional foundation that has been built on inherited lies needs to be rebuilt now on truth. So whatever happens is, so that can happen. Where you came from shapes but doesn't determine where you're going. So it's bringing to your attention that yes, you may have experienced horrible things in your childhood or in your relationships, but you can always change your home life. And of course, for some of you who may be in coercive or other toxic situations, you're going to have to take precautions and steps to get out of those situations in a safe way, because when you try to leave, that's the most dangerous time for your life often. But ultimately, this energy is saying to let go of what's toxic to you in your partnerships and find more balance. So watch out for family revealing secrets, your home requiring change, or you wanting to end a living situation. Think about your heritage, your your generational, your inheritance, like your culture, belief systems and stuff. Look into them. Are these beliefs really yours? And by February 2027, the foundation that you believe in, your belief systems, will reflect more of the truth that you have chosen, not inherited lies, right? And for Scorpio, Pluto is retrograding in your 3rd house, right, of communication, learning and siblings. So your voice communication, thinking patterns, get the Pluto treatment, especially your day-to-day communications, right? So some of you may lose your voice during this time, literally or metaphorically, or have lost your voice. Metaphorically, you felt like you couldn't speak your truth, and you can reclaim it now as Pluto goes retrograde, right? You can also look into, imbalances in your relationships with siblings and friends, or other, day-to-day power dynamics. Local community can show corruption right now. So day-to-day family life, you may think about what's toxic in those kind of relationships, and communicate with power and play yourself, and what you say and what you don't say can shape your reality during this retrograde. So watch out for communication breaking down, only for it to be rebuilt. Siblings showing patterns that need to be changed, or you maybe being the sibling that may be overbearing to your other siblings, right? And just other local dynamics and relationships that reveal kind of like imbalance and rot and decay and toxicity, right? So by 2027 February, your voice can reflect the underworld knowledge of going deep and dealing with these, daily communication issues, and, saying what needs to be said. For Sagittarius, Pluto retrogrades in your second house of money, values and worth. So finances, your values, system, sense of worth, face, death and rebirth, right? So money structures can collapse or transform right now. What you thought had value can be empty. Any sense of self-worth that was built on achievement, beauty or approval of others can die right now, and you can realize that your worth is in heaven. It's within you. It's not earned, right? The only thing that can be earned is buying people with money or status with money, but it's never true, because a lot of time when people lose money, they lose their status. So it's about finding that worth that never dies, right? Watch out for financial crises, forcing change, and changes in finances can just force you to reevaluate what matters most to you in life, right? Your values can show a mismatch with your behavior, and just question your foundations, your routines, your day-to-day habits. And by February 2027, your resources can reflect true values, not your performed ones, as you bring yourself more into day-to-day balance. For Capricorn, Pluto's retrograding in your first house of identity, body and presentation. So it's bringing your attention to the fact that you are the transformation, and your identity, physical body, how you're seen, or get a sort of like a platonic demolition, tearing down and rebuilding. And this is the most intense retrograde energy because it's in Capricorn, and Pluto's in Capricorn, right? So you can't hide the work. It can be visible on your face, in your energy, through your presence. So that identity, death, rebirth cycle, who you were can die, and who you become can emerge and come out. And in between, you can feel more vulnerable, raw and real. So watch yourself changing visibly, your identity setting, your body reflecting your inner work, for good or bad. So just be gentle with yourself, eat the right foods, drink enough water, get out in nature if you can, listen to nature sounds or whatever if you can't. By 2027 February, you can be a different person, and everyone can notice this, even if they can't name what's changed, because you've gone through this kind of thinking of who you are. Who am I being authentic? Because it's in your first house, right? So all first house stuff. So you may actually change the exercise routine, eating routine, how you show up in public and all of that. For Aquarius, Pluto's retrograding in your 12th house of unconscious spirituality and the hidden and our secrets, right? So, your shadow, your unconscious patterns, the way you spiritual bypass and self-sabotage is all coming up to the surface for you to look at. So, this may be invisible work, a lot of hidden inner work going on, dream work for you guys, just dreaming, going off with the fairy sort of thing, or it can be still, a lot still for you, not so chaotic in some ways, but whatever is going on, nobody may not see it, you may not see it, but everything underneath will change. And the 12th house, holds the power keys to your transformation. So what you hide from yourself runs your life. What you won't face controls you. So face your truth, even though it can be painful. So dreams can reveal the truth. Unconscious things that you buried can come up to the surface, and spiritual practice can show you the way that you bypass, the way that you use your spiritual practice, religious practice, to bypass dealing with real life and your real issues, right? So by February 2027, the unconscious work shows in your internal and external life. Everything can change because the foundation shifted, right? So your inner changes will reflect the outward changes, right? And for Pluto, this is affecting your 11th house of friendships, community, and your hopes, right? So your social circle, your friendship groups, your community, your hopes for the future kind of get a platonic purging, right? Letting go, ending, burning up, singeing, whatever you want to call it. So friendships built on performances can die. Communities can show how toxic they are, relationships, family, whatever, and can show how unbearable, how draining and they are for you, right? And groups that require, you to let go of can come to your attention. And remember that true community holds transformation. Real friends support you and who you're becoming, and don't require you to just stay the same or to fit into whoever they want you to be. So watch out for friendship groups revealing truth, communities showing, toxicity and rot, and social media becoming exhausting for you, just having to show up in public. You may want to do some, sort of like, inner and shadow work, and just let go of the fake friendships. And by February 2027, your people, who you call your people, can reflect your actual alignment, and you can share mutual depth, share transformation and real support with them, where you give mutual support and respect, right? So that's the end of the zodiac guidance. I'm going to talk later on towards the end about Pluto retrograding in the different houses, so you would have to look at your transit chart for that, and whatever house Pluto is going to be in as it retrograde. So anyway, now I'm going to talk about the Vedic layer. So Pluto is in Savannah Naksatra, which has the listening ear as its theme, and it's the 22nd of the 27 lunar mansions, and the 12th degree of Capricorn falls in Pada 1, which is the Aries Namvasa, which is ruled by Mars. And the deity is Vishnu, the preserver. And the Sakti, the power, is the power to connect, right? And the animal is a female monkey of this Naksatra. And the symbol is 3 footprints or an ear. So ultimately, Savannah means hearing or listening, and the ear symbolizes receptive wisdom, right? Learning not through doing but through listening. The 3 footprints represent Vishnu's 3 strides across the universe: earth, atmosphere and heaven. Pluto retrograde in Savannah brings listening work, not talking, not teaching yet, but listening to what the institutions are actually saying beneath their official statements, right? To what your body knows about power that your mind won't admit. So as I said in the intro, we have to teach what we need to teach, but in order to do that, we need to listen. We need to listen to our higher consciousness and what it wants, and also listen and review the external messages and our internal beliefs, right? To see what the structures, the voices, the teachings themselves reveal, when no one's watching, right? So the female monkey, which is the animal symbol of this Naksatra, chakra, is clever, adaptive, and watches before acting. She listens to forest sounds, predators approaching, fruits ripening, danger signals. Survival, depends on paying attention. And Vishnu, the preserver, may seem odd for Pluto the destroyer, but here's the paradox: to preserve what's worth saving, you must destroy what's corrupted, what's toxic, right? And Vishnu's preservation requires Pluto's demolition, letting go, tearing down old structures, and the ear listens to know what to preserve through the death process, right? So the footprints, right? So it's 3 strides. So one stride representing the earth, material reality, the other the atmosphere, which is our mental and emotional realm and space, and heaven, which is the spiritual dimension, right? So Pluto retrograde in Savannah asks you to listen across all 3. Listen to the earth. What is your body telling you about power? Where do you feel the structure will collapse physically? In terms of atmosphere, what emotional truths about authority have you been refusing to hear? In terms of, your spirituality, heaven, the afterlife, what spiritual knowing about corruption wants to be acknowledged? The monkey listens before moving. Vishnu preserves through right action. Pluto destroys to create space for what's actually worth keeping. So the balancing act, the Aries, impatience, Pluto at 12 degrees Capricorn, sits in Savannah, Pada 1, which is the Aries Namvasa ruled by Mars, and this creates immediate friction. Savannah teaches patient listening. Aries demands immediate attention. Your body wants to do something now, while Savannah insists you wait and listen first. The Samhana Sakti, the power to connect, isn't passive absorption, right? It's strategic networking. Listening to understand who holds real power, what alliances exist beneath the surface, which connections are worth building versus which are theatre. Savannah's connection to power means that it serves reputation, public position, and political skill. The ear doesn't just receive, it gathers intelligence. This is the fame Nasakra territory path, right? People born with the moon in Savannah often hold public office, gain recognition through the media, and build reputations through strategic communication. But first they listen, and Pluto Retrograde 2026 wants us to listen, to learn what others want to hear. Then they deliver it with precision, with focus, and that's the Mars Aries drive channeled through the Moon Savannah wisdom. So to integrate this energy during this retrograde, practice listening to your gut reactions when authority speaks, to your body's tension around institutional demands, to your dreams about power, to the cracks in systems you've been trained not to notice, to what's being said between the words. The student of nature, Pluto Sabian symbol, right 12 degree of Capricorn, lets us from observation. But before observation comes listening. The ear hears what the eye can't see. Let Savannah teach you receptive wisdom, two-way wisdom, right, giving and taking, whilst Pluto does the demolition work, letting go, burning down the bridges that need to be burnt. And when Aries, impatient, screams to act now, ask yourself, have I listened long enough to know what actually serves? The monkey doesn't jump before checking which branch will hold, their weight. So, you must, scope out your audience and, but also not to, sort of like be like, to overthink it, it's the teaching, retrograde wanting us to teach what we know. So, to check what this retrograde truly means for you, pay attention to your moon sign, your rising sign in your natal chart, any current planetary periods, your natal positions of any planet, or point at the 12th degree of any sign, any course or rising or north node, whatever, and whether Pluto aspects any new natal planets during this retrograde, or whether Pluto is aspecting any planet in your natal chart, or if you've got strong 8th house, 12th house, 1st house, 2nd house energy, or planets in those houses in your natal chart, as well as any any other planetary transits and events that are affecting your natal chart, right? So now I'm going to talk about the 6 aspects, right, that are aspecting Pluto at the time of this retrograde. So we've got Mercury making a square to Pluto, right? So this, as I said, is bringing our attention to what you know but haven't said into focus, into collision with power structures that can't handle truth. So, you know, Mercury in Aries wants direct speech. Pluto in Capricorn understands institutional consequences, right? So Mercury square Pluto can bring information that can't be unknown. So again, you know, secrets being revealed, conversations that can get heated and not unhad, you know, words said that can't be taken back. Yeah, that's the one. Maybe realizations about authority that changes everything. The square is loosening, but the knowledge remains, you know. So now, you know, for some of you, before Pluto goes retrograde on the 6th of May, truth may come out, and you may think, oh, if I say nothing and ignore it for the 6 months, 5 months, that Pluto, well, near enough 6 months, May, October, May 5th, no, October is 10, 5 months, yeah. Sorry, I get forgetful sometimes. But yeah, so ultimately, you know, it wants us to watch out for the temptation to pretend you don't know what you do know, the desire, the urge to soften truth for institutional comfort, just to stay in your comfort zone, and, you know, of typically toxic relationships or situations, you know, and, you know, the fear that speaking your truth will destroy your position. And yeah, for some of you, you know, if you do say certain things, things will change. That is the truth. But sometimes, you know, you need to know the unknown and say things that can't be unsaid. This doesn't mean that relationships need to end totally, but it does mean they do need to become more real, right? So, you know, the bomb, the Mercury Sabian symbol, is concealed but not diffused. So Pluto retrograde is asking, what truth about power have you learned that you can't speak yet? Not can't ever, but not yet. Remember that timing matters. Strategic silence isn't the same as complicit silence. So, you know, for some of you, yeah, you may need to speak that truth. Some of you, it's about saying what needs to be said in a strategic way, not to explode like Aries impulses, not caring, maybe being a bit more Virgo with telling the truth, saying it, but you know, setting a plan, being precise about it, right? And Pluto's trying to the ascendant, which is at 0-11 separating, allows for us to change more easily, so we can be more in our self-expression, our presentation, how we look after our physical body and its needs. The trine is bringing nice and easy energy, but, you know, it's still involving, you know, Pluto, right? Death and rebirth, letting go. So yeah, we will be jolted, pushed out of our comfort zone, but this trine is allowing us to sort of like transform visibly. You know, people can see it in our face, our appearance, our demeanour, the way we carry ourselves, in our energy and through our presence, as I said, and the work that Pluto does internally shows up externally if you're open to it. You know, you won't be able to hide the metamorphosis, the change, right? But watch out for how surprised you can be, or others can be, with how much you've changed. Others noticing that you've changed before you do. Your body reflecting your inner work. You know, just posture changes, the way you carry yourself, as I said, changing. So the work is to let the transformation be seen. Pluto trine ascendant at this orb means you're becoming unrecognisable, and that's the point. Don't perform who you were to make others comfortable. The student of nature, which is the Pluto Sabian symbol, lets us through presence, not just words. So it's allowing, because sometimes it's hard. I've experienced this where you've changed, but being around other people who have not changed or expect you to still be a certain way. You can let go of friendships, but, you know, there may be some family members and stuff, and it's important to show up as yourself, show up whole and to be so centered in your sense of self that nothing can shake you. And this will take many practices, right? Many failures. And even when you think you're there, you will, I don't want to say let yourself down, but you will kind of do something what makes you question, oh, am I really as strong as what I think I am? But that doesn't mean to give up and think that you're weak. It just means to keep on trying and know that some people won't accept your power, but you should still step into it and empower yourself, not to abuse them or to control them, but to project and be yourself, right? And Pluto's making a quincunx to the midheaven at 1.55 separating. So this wants us to adjust, as I said in the introduction, to let go of things that don't fit no more. It may, require us to constantly change and reset and recollaborate things that don't align easily with our career identity, and Pluto's power, our empowerment, may not do so at the beginning. But the friction this creates is, do I transform and lose my position? Because sometimes you may be scared of changing because it could cost you your job and bills have to be paid and money has to be made and all of that, and you can also ask yourself, do I maintain my position and abandon transformation? So it's about your public role versus your private power and work and your empowerment and your identity between who you are, your professional identity, and who you're actually becoming, who you are known to be versus what you're learning to be. So watch out for career no longer fitting, professional mass feeling, false authority structures in your profession, your field, revealing corruption that you can't unsee. The work is that this quincunx is demanding change, not resolution. You can't make Pluto's deep transformation fit neatly into career structures and systems, right? Something has to give. Either the structures change or you sift out of them, you change, you leave, right? Or you hold the awkward tension whilst the structures collapse around you. So it's your choice. It's internal changes. So it's changing to not ignore the corruption. That's what it's not about that, say what you need to say, but you have to be strategic in what you do say as well. And whatever it is in your career, you won't be able to unsee it, so you have to choose what you're going to do with it. Hold the awkward tension, change your job, or try and make the system in your work or government or whatever change, right? For some of you, you're going to be more involved than others, but the choice is yours. Work within your personal energy limits, right? So Uranus also makes a trine to Pluto. So Uranus in Taurus, trine in Pluto in Capricorn, is allowing us to transform in revolutionary ways, not an explosion, it's erosion. Systems don't collapse overnight, they crumble from within. So the Samaritan woman, the Uranus Sabian symbol, drawing water, is a revolutionary act that looks mundane, simple, nothing to take note of, right? But Pluto's institutional demolition, tearing things down, accelerates through small rebellions, adding up, compounding. So watch out for resources, people reclaiming resources that feels natural, or you taking your power back from a relationship, or stop funding a child, a friend, a family member, saying no more finances, claiming what's yours without asking permission, revolutionary acts that don't announce themselves, and systems that lose power through people refusing to uphold them, to continue doing what the system says, right? So over the next few months, there can be slow revolution that builds step by step, day-to-day habits, changing one step at a time, getting back up after each failure, small acts of resource reclaiming, boundary setting, refusing to do what those in authority say when it's disconnected from what you're standing for. Neptune sets style to Pluto is a long ongoing opportunity where we've got Neptune in Pisces and Pluto in Capricorn working together to allow us to let go of our disillusionment around who and what we can be, about the way we hide from truth, scared of stepping into truth. And it reminds us to do the groundwork between letting go of fake news or falsehoods, lies, and going into truth. So watch out for spiritual insights into power structures, dreams that reveal, systematic rot, especially in family systems, governments, and what they tell you your role in dismantling it, calling out, whistleblowing is. You can have intuitive hits on when to detonate truth, which is the Mercury bomb symbol, right, and the temptation to bypass, which is the Plutonian work, with everything is one spirituality, which is true on one level, but also we must also do the work and stop things from happening, because we can fall into that everything is one and not help others and just lose the humanity that way. So yes, everything is one, but we must also have to speak the truth when need be. So the work is to use Neptune's perspective without, spiritual bypassing. From an altitude, we can see patterns, but you can still land the plane eventually. So remember that letting go isn't escape. The set star offers us to see beyond material, money, power, and all of that, and, corrupt systems and dismantle them. Right? Pluto semi-set star to the moon's north node again supports our transformation, and the stairs, the north node Sabian symbol, reminds us that we're climbing, and the people we're climbing with, we're all collective, right, despite our differences, So it's about each of us reclaiming our power to stabilize the collective energy. So watch out for feeling like your personal work is astrologically significant, because it is. There will be synchronicities around community, collaboration, working with others, doing deep solar work, and the power dots of transforming alone while serving the collective, because I believe if each of us, to the degree that we all can, balance ourselves and our personal development and learn to look after our emotional, psychological, physical and spiritual and financial needs, this is how we can help the collective, right? So the work of this energy is to trust the death and rebirth cycle, right, and the collective evolution as you reclaim your personal power and help dismantle corrupt routines and systems and face, the corruption and speak out against it, right? Especially, the corruption that we all have within ourselves, and not just seeing it as something that it's other people that got the corruption, they're the wrong ones, but seeing how you can dismantle the corruption within yourself. And remember, you're not just healing yourself by doing that, you're stabilizing the collective climb towards, making a better earth for us all, right? So now I'm just going to talk about the transiting aspect patterns and how they add, right, to the energy of this Pluto going retrograde. So the moon, Saturn in the midheaven is the strongest T-square, and again it allows us to speak our truth loudly and to explore different careers. It's bringing our attention to routine, discipline and limits, our emotional truths, our needs and our instincts, and our public identity and roles. So Saturn in Pisces demands that we let go of rigid structures, inflexible routines, and surrender controlling others and just accept the unknown. And the midheaven in Gemini requires us to speak publicly, communicate, to articulate clearly. And the moon in Sagittarius wants us to grow and feel everything and speak our truth loudly, right? So all these three are pulling us in opposite directions: emotional truth, structure limitation, and career communication. The tension is productive if you work with it consciously. So we can't resolve this T-square, we hold it, right? We hold on to our emotional truth, the moon energy that doesn't fit into Saturn structures or careers, communication demands. Instead of trying to make them fit, let the friction create something new. The missing leg in this T-square is the Virgo energy, and this calls for us to be grounded in our service and to be more practical in the way we discern things, have judgment and things, and to embody and live with awareness, right? So we have to watch out for feeling like emotional honesty destroys our career, and that structural government and authoritative demands crushing our instincts and our public roles, requiring us to communicate feelings that we're supposed to contain. And basically we say crap to that. We will speak our truth. You can't cross my instincts, my gut feelings, right? And we will communicate our feelings, right? So we've got a second T-square between Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, the midheaven in Gemini, and the ascendant in Virgo, right? So this T-square is asking us, how do you hold spiritual truth and depth whilst maintaining your public identity and personal presentation, and do your inner spiritual work, right? That doesn't easily translate or mix with your career or your personal identity, what others expect you to be in the world, right? So the Pisces conjunction between Saturn and Neptune wants us to dissolve, let go of rigid routines, structures, relationships, and build more spiritual discipline. So the work is internal, but the midheaven, public, and the ascendant, personal, both want it visible. So the friction creates, do I show my spiritual work publicly? Do I embody, live it personally, or do I keep it private? So the missing leg of this T-square is Sagittarius, which we have the moon in Sagittarius in the first one, right? So this is telling us to seek truth, to explore our belief systems, and to express ourselves more honestly without attachment to form, to the material, to what others think, right? And the grand trine between Uranus, the ascendant, and Pluto allows us to have practical flow and be grounded in the ways that we work during this retrograde, right? So it wants us to reclaim our resources. So where do you waste money, time and energy, right? It wants us to ground our identity to be more authentic, and it wants us to transform ourselves in the ways that needs to be formed. So it's an earth trine, grand trine, so each energy is feeding each other. Uranus in Taurus is feeding the ascendant in Virgo, which is feeding Pluto in Capricorn. So use this trine consciously, and that's where the work happens without forcing. Uranus brings revolution to our values and resources. The ascendant brings, awareness and authenticity to identity through practical service and being honest about who we are. And Pluto brings transformation through letting go of routines and things that are not good for our health, So we have to be revolutionary in the ways we reclaim our resources and use our resources, whether it be money, tangible, touchable, our energy, right? Sleeping on time, eating right, spending time in nature, doing exercise, bringing more balance into our day-to-day routine. We've got a yard between Mercury, Saturn, and the ascendant at 21 degrees orb tightness. So Mercury and Saturn are both quincunx the ascendant, creating a finger of fate, pointing at identity and presentation. And Mercury and Saturn are sextile, so they're both working together, but they both create friction with our ascendant, right? First house, so the yard says your explosive communication, Mercury in Aries, and spiritual discipline, Saturn in Pisces, must adjust to meet your identity. This is the ascendant in Virgo, but they both don't fit easily, they need constant collaboration, reset and change. So the work is, to integrate your truth, your communication with your personal expression and spiritual structure. So a lot of these transiting aspect patterns and aspects are helping us to, be unified, mind, body and soul. But minding us this is that we can't keep our communication separate from our spiritual work, and we can't keep our spiritual work separate from how we present ourselves. All three must adjust to each other. So we have to watch out for saying things that don't match our spiritual values, spiritual bypassing that avoids direct communication, and identity crisis when truth and spirituality, meet and collide. And then there's a grand cross between the moon, Saturn in the midheaven, and the ascendant. So this brings maximum tension, right? So this grand cross pulls us in four ways. So our emotional expression and growth, our spiritual need to let go, and our communication in our career and our service identity all being pulled, right? So it was reminding us all of these aspects, right, that we have to learn to work with all the different sides of our personality, our strengths, weaknesses, our highs, our lows, our addictions, our the non-addictive tendencies as well, and to these are our crosses to bear, things to learn to manage. We don't resolve them, we carry them. So the four-way pull creates constant tension between what I feel versus what I'm supposed to let go of, versus what am I supposed to communicate publicly, versus who am I supposed to be. And the cross is the Pluto work, the constant tension, the demands, the four-way pull. This is where transformation happens, not despite the tension but through the tension, right? So now I'm going to talk about the Sabian symbols and what they bring, right? The layers of power, death and rebirth they reveal. So Pluto's at the 12th degree of Capricorn, as I said, and this is a student of nature lecturing, and this falls the right knee joint, which is the weight-bearing hinge that allows direction changes, right? So this Sabian symbol, as I said, reminds us the student has become a teacher, not because they have mastered nature, you can't master nature, but because they have observed it long enough to see patterns, understand cycles, and recognize that there are laws that control how things grow, die and return. So this isn't abstract thinking or indeed an abstract teaching. This is, I have watched seeds die in soil and become forests. I've seen winter kill everything and spring bring it back again. I have observed predators and prey, drought and flood, fire and renewal. And here's what I've learned, Pluto at this degree says you've been studying power, death and transformation since Pluto entered Capricorn in 2020. Over 5 years of watching institutions collapse, authority figures fall, corporations implode and governments reveal corruption. You're not naive anymore. We're not, are we? We're kind of, what's that word, desensitized, which is not a good thing as well. But yeah, we've seen the patterns. Now you lecture, not from a podium in an institution. You don't trust them anymore, but from lived experience. Here's how power corrupts. Here's how systems rot from within. Here's why collapse is necessary. Here's what grows from death, right? So as I said, this symbol rules the right knee joint. It determines if we can stand, walk and run or collapse. It's the turning point. Bend it and you change direction. Lock it and you're stuck. Break it and you're immobilized. Pluto here says, what weight are you bearing? Whose authority are you still holding up without, questioning it with your right knee? The active masculine doing side. What direction do you need to turn towards, and what's preventing your knee from bending? The knee joint is where, bones, Capricorn structure meet cartilage, flexible tissue, meet fluid, movement, adaptation. When your knee works, you're powerful, able to move through the world bearing weight. When it fails, everything stops. This Pluto retrograde examines your structural turning points. What needs to bend so you can change direction? What weight needs releasing so your joints can function? What authority are you bearing that destroys your ability to move? So to integrate this, remember you're the student turned lecturer. Teach what you've learned about power, corruption and collapse and rebirth. Your observations over the 5 years of, Pluto in Capricorn aren't just personal. They're data about how systems work and don't work. Share it, write it, speak it. Let your right knee bear the weight of this wisdom whilst bending towards the new directions. Neptune's in the 10th degree of Pisces, which has the Sabian symbol, an aviator in the clouds, and this rules the left materosals, the foot bones that touch ground whilst your head's in the sky, right? So the aviator navigates by instruments when visibility is zero. Clouds, obscure, cover up everything. You're flying but you can't see, so you trust instruments, instinct and training, right? Neptune in Pisces is home. Pisces is Neptune's sign, right? After all, boundless, dissolving, infinite and mystical. So the sextile to, Pluto means structural dissolution, letting go, of the things that need to, so you can support your transformation. But when you're in the clouds, Neptune energy, you can't see the ground, which is Pluto and Capricorn, right? You're navigating, dealing with transformation without being able to see where you're going or how far you've come or how far you've got to go. You're piloting, walking, moving through, letting go, the splitting blind, right? And the foot bones are meant to touch the ground, but the aviators' feet, the pilot's feet, don't touch the ground, right? They are suspended, operating pedals that affect flight but never feeling the earth beneath them. And this set style says your spiritual bypassing days are numbered. Neptune offers perspective, seen from above, but Pluto demands ground. You need to see from the clouds, Neptune vision, whilst knowing your feet will eventually touch Earth, which is Pluto reality, right? So to integrate this energy, use Neptune's altitude, transcendent energy perspective to see the big picture of the Plutonian work, of transformation from above. You see patterns you miss when grounded, but remember your flying instruments, not joyriding, this driving and taking the car out for a raz without a direction, but stay focused on the eventual landing. And your left foot bones are receptive, feminine, be inside, need to ground, touch ground, make contact with ground eventually. So Mercury at the 13th degree of Aries, a bomb which failed to explode, is now safely concealed, and this fills the ventricles of the brain. So these are fluid-filled chambers and pressure containers. So the bomb didn't explode, but it's still a bomb, right? Still dangerous, still capable of detonation. Safely concealed doesn't mean diffuse, it means hidden, contained, timing suspended. And Mercury scared Pluto, brought communication to a breaking point. Whatever you said or didn't say, whatever was spoken or hidden, suppressed, created explosive potential. The square has passed, but the bomb remains. The ventricles hold, cerebral spinal fluid, the liquid that cushions the brain from shock and regulates pressure. So when pressure builds, too much said, too much unsaid, too much known, these chambers either absorb it or rupture it. Mercury in Aries wants to say everything now. Pluto and Capricorn knows some truth destroys systems is spoken too soon. The square created collision, explosive communication versus strategic silence. So to integrate this energy, remember you're carrying a concealed bomb in your brain ventricles. Truth you can't unknown, realizations you can't unsee, words you can't unspeak or wish you had spoken. Handle with care. The bomb isn't diffused, it's contained. Timing matters, and Pluto's work, especially when retrograde, requires knowing when to detonate truth, not just what truth is, so knowing when to speak truth. And it's not just about knowing it, it's about speaking it, but when to speak it, right? So Uranus at the 7th degree of Taurus rules the vocal cords, voice production, how we express ourselves, right? The Sabian symbol of a woman of Samaria comes to draw water from the well. So the Samaritan woman is an outsider in the Bible, claiming essential resources. Samaritans and Jews didn't interact in terms of the Bible, and women didn't speak to strange men at wells. This woman breaks every social boundaries to meet her needs because she speaks to, Jesus at the well. And Uranus, trine Pluto, creates a revolutionary transformation that flows rather than explodes. The trine is the earth element, right? Grounded, revolution, practical rebellion, long-term disruption. The woman uses her voice to claim what's hers. The well is a communal resource she's entitled. She takes, not permission seeking, not apologizing, just I need water, here's a well, I'm drawing from it, right? This is Uranus saying the resources you need are available. The systems may exclude you, the authorities may deny you access, draw anyway, use your voice. Revolutionary acts don't always look dramatic, sometimes they're just claiming what should have been yours all along, right? So to integrate this energy during this Pluto retrograde, you're the Samaritan woman. You need resources from wells you have been taught you can't access. Power structures say you're not entitled. Your voice, literal and metaphorical, is your revolutionary tool. Speak, ask and claim. And the trine to Pluto means the revolutionary resource claiming supports your power transformation. And the North Node in the 12th degree of Aries, which has the Sabian symbol, people and stairs graduated upwards, and rules the left circulate ligaments, knee stabilizers, movement supporters. So the image shows collective ascent. Not one person is climbing, people plural, graduated upwards, meaning spaced at intervals, supporting each other. No one is left behind, no one is rushing ahead unsupported. And Pluto semi-sextile the North Node creates an awkward alignment. Semi-sextile is a 30-degree, too wide for conjunction but too narrow for a sextile, right? It's a fraction that demands adjustment. So it's reminding us that without our knees, right, our knees, we would collapse under the weight, right? Our legs wouldn't be able to hold up. We need our kneecaps to walk, and with them we can climb, descend and swivel and turn. They support gradual movement. And this semi-sextile says that Pluto death rebirth work isn't solitary, something you do alone, right? Although you may do some of it in isolation, but ultimately we're doing it for the collective, so the collective can uplift. We are climbing with others, and the North Node in Aquarius wants us to evolve as a collective, right, and transform and work with others. So Pluto semi-sextile to the Moon's North Node is asking you, in a nutshell, how do I do deep personal shadow work while supporting collective evolution, the collective climb? And the answer is you stabilize others, climb whilst climbing yourself, graduated slowly, one step at a time, upwards, remembering that no one climbs alone, but also no one waits at the bottom for everyone. You support and ascend at the same time. So to integrate this energy during this retrograde, notice who's climbing with you, notice who stabilize you, helps you when you wobble and get off path, and who helps you to get back on it, and who do you support when they're unsteady on their path, And the North Node says your evolutionary direction includes collective, not just personal transformation, and the Pluto work benefits the climb, and your shadow work at this time is to reclaim your personal power and to help others do the same too. So now I'm just going to finish up by talking about the shadow work that we can do, and talk about Pluto retrograding through the houses, and give you your survival guide, how to survive this Pluto retrograde and how to integrate it and what that looks like, right? So now I'm going to talk about the shadow work, right? The descent practices to go deep within our psyche. Pluto retrograde 2026 demands conscious engagement with our shadow self, so our psychological, emotional and spiritual traumas. So to work with our wound, right, the wound work, remember every scar you carry holds information. Every wound teaches. Pluto retrograde in Capricorn are specifically about power wounds, where authority harmed you, where institutions failed you, where ambition cost you, where success required selling your soul. So to work with this energy, create a power wound map. List every instance where power was misused against you by parents, teachers, bosses, institutions, systems. For each wound, ask 3 questions. 1. What did this teach me about power? 2. What did I internalize as true about power from this wound? 3. Is that internalization actually true, or is it trauma? The wounds are teachers, not things to transcend or heal away. The trident work isn't about fixing wounds, it's about learning from them, digging them up, extracting the wisdom and choosing what to keep and what to release, right? Then do an authority inventory. So most power dynamics are inherited from our families, our nations, our religions. So you learn how to relate to authority from watching your parents relate to theirs. You learn institutional behavior in school. You learn professional dynamics from first jobs. So to work with this energy, complete these sentence stems daily during the retrograde period. So authority figures in my life, then, complete that sentence. When someone has power over me, the last time I challenged authority was, what I never said to someone in charge is, if I claim my own authority, I would. Let the answer surprise you. Don't edit them. Don't perform good answers. Let the raw, truth come to the surface. Your unconscious relationship with power is running your life, so we have to make it conscious, right? So you can also, the third practice is the institution examination. So, we all participate in systems every day, financial systems, employment systems, health systems and educational systems. Most people never examine these consciously, just accept them as how things are. So choose one institution you interact with regularly, whether it be your workplace, bank, healthcare provider, etc., and ask, what does this institution claim it does versus what it actually does? Where do I see the gap between stated values and actual behaviour? How do I participate in maintaining this institution? What would happen if I withdrew my participation? 5. Am I propping up something that's rotten? This isn't about rejecting all institutions. It's about seeing them clearly, right? The student of nature observes without sentiment what is, not what should be. It doesn't matter. It just is, and observes, right? The next one is the ambition audit. In Capricorn, Pluto asks about your ambition, your goals. Not do you have goals, but what have your goals cost you? Success has a price. Achievement requires sacrifice. The question is, did you sacrifice the right things, or did you sacrifice yourself? So the practice is, list your major achievements, your career successes, financial gains, status acquisitions. For each, ask, what did I sacrifice to achieve this? Was the sacrifice worth it? Did achieving this bring what I thought it would? Do I still want what this represents? If I released this achievement, who would I be? And, some sacrifices were worth making. Some weren't. Some achievements you would repeat. Some you wouldn't. Clarity requires an honest audit. No performance, no should. It's all about what is. The final practice is, thinking about death, contemplating and letting go, rebirth. And it can be hard because, death is scary, right? But it's one of the only certainties. After we're born, we will transcend, die, whatever. We will need to let go. If we want to get to the age 2, we have to give up being 1. If we want to get to the age 30, we have to give up being 29, So Pluto is the god of death and rebirth, and this retrograde asks what needs to die, not metaphorically, literally. What relationships need ending? What careers need quitting? What identities need releasing, and what beliefs need burying. So the practice is, write your death list, things that need to die during this retrograde for rebirth to happen. Be specific. My identity as the person who never challenges authority. My marriage to someone I haven't loved in 3 years. My belief that ambition, goals equals worth. My career in the field that deadens my soul. My performance of strength when I'm actually terrified. Death first, then rebirth, not the reverse. You can't birth a new self without killing the old self. And the composting, letting go, must happen in darkness before the sprouting. Right, so you have to really think about what needs to end during this Pluto retrograde. So now I'm just going to talk about Pluto transiting through the houses, right? So in your natal chart, find where the 8th to the 11th degree of Capricorn falls in your natal chart to locate the power zone, right? Or the 8th to the 11th degree of any planet, right? In those houses as well. But if Pluto's on the course, or if you don't have any Pluto Capricorn planets in Capricorn, or Pluto's not there, which it wouldn't be because it's slow, so I doubt you wouldn't be alive the last time Pluto was in Capricorn was years ago. But anyway, So, find where the 8th to the 11th degree of Capricorn falls in your natal chart to locate your power zone. So, if it's the first house, remember you are the transformation, your identity, physical body, how you're seen, or get the Pluto treatment, demolition and rebuilding, most intense placement, and you can't hide the work. It's visible on your face, in your energy. So, watch for yourself changing visibly, identity setting, body reflecting your inner work, right? Also, if it's falling in your second house of money, values and self-worth, your finances, value systems and sense of worth, face, death and rebirth. So money structures collapse or transform. What you thought had value shows up as empty. So self-worth built on achievement, booty, prove or dies. Watch for financial crises, forcing a revolution, value showing a mismatch with your behaviours, and question the foundation of your beliefs. In the third house, your voice, thinking patterns and daily communications get the Pluto treatment. So maybe you lose your voice, literally or metaphorically, and must reclaim it. Siblings dynamics reveal power patterns in your brother and sister or any other close friendship or cousin relationships. The local community shows corruption. Watch for communication breaking down to rebuild. Siblings showing patterns. Local dynamics revealing like rot. In the fourth house, your roots, origins, family dynamics and private life get dug up. Family secrets can come to the surface. Home becomes, unbearable to live, or it can transform. Your emotional foundation that are built on lies need to be rebuilt with truth. Watch for family secrets coming out, and you may require changing homes, or you need to just examine your heritage, right, and the roots of your wounds, psychological, emotional, spiritual. And the fifth house, it wants you to play, create, feel happiness, take a risk. Creative blocks can reveal their purpose. Romance patterns can show where you perform romance instead of feel it. If you have children, power dynamics in parenting can come up. Watch for creative projects dying to make room for new ones. Romance revealing patterns, and happiness, joy requiring honesty. In the sixth house of work, health and daily habits, your daily routines, work environment and health patterns get dismantled and rebuilt. The job that once sustained you and your career that you love can become unbearable. The health crisis you've been ignoring demands attention. Watch out for work toxicity coming up. Health requiring attention, daily work patterns showing dysfunction, right? In terms of the seventh house, if it's there, relationships can face death and rebirth, not just romantic or partnerships. So what's built on performance dies, what's built on truth deepens, power dynamics become visible and unbearable. What's for partnerships revealing power imbalances, contracts needing renegotiation, and relationships requiring honesty. If it hits the eighth house, death, sets and shared resources. This is the most comfortable placement for Pluto's work, but doesn't mean it's easy, right? Pluto's at home here, so shared resources, inheritance, sexuality, death work, or intensify. Other people's money, power, intimate exchanges get examined. Watch out for inheritance revealing financial and family dynamics, shared resources showing control patterns, and sexuality requiring depth, right? Ninth house, your belief, travel, higher learning. So all of these can get demolished and rebuilt. Religion, spirituality, your worldview, your belief systems, your understanding of the things can reveal cracks. Higher education can show corruption. Travel can expose privilege. Watch out for beliefs requiring examination. Meaning systems collapsing, and philosophy needing truth. Your 10th house, your career, public image, authority, all under the spotlight. Your professional identity can reveal the decay, what's not good, what needs to be rebuilt and let go of. Your relationship with being seen and known transforms. Authority figures show their corruption, so watch for career revealing toxicity, public image feeling false, and authority structures collapsing. Your 11th house, if that's lit up during this retrograde, your social circles, friend groups, community belonging and hopes for future can get a purge. Pluto style. Friendships built on performance die, communities sowing toxicity become unbearable. So what's for friend groups revealing truth, communities sowing decay and rot and toxicity. And 12th house, your unconscious, spirituality and what's hidden, your spiritual bypassing, unconscious patterns, self-sabotage all surface for examination. And this is invisible work, but the most needed and foundational. Nobody may see it, you may not even notice it, but it changes everything underneath. So what's for dreams revealing the truth, your unconscious coming to your conscious attention, and your spiritual practice sowing where you bypass, right? So how do you survive this retrograde, right? So here's 5 practices to help you. Number 1, lecture from your own observations of what you've learned from life itself. And since 2020, when Pluto moved into Capricorn, teach what you know, not from theory but from your lived experience. So journal, voice record, make a podcast about whatever suits your temperament, right? Journal about your observations, if that's it, about power structures, institutional toxicity and authority collapse. What patterns have you seen repeat? What did institutions promise versus deliver? How does power corrupt? How do systems collapse from within? Right from here's what I observe, not here's what I believe. 2, listen before speaking. This is Savana and Sacra practice. So the ear hears what the eye can't see. Before acting, before speaking, before deciding, listen to your body, to your gut, to what's being said between the words, to what institutions reveal when they think no one's paying attention. Practice, 3 breath listening before responding. When someone speaks, when your body signals, when news breaks, when authority demands, take 3 conscious breaths. Listen to the tone beneath the words. Listen to what your gut says before your mind rationalizes. The monkey survives by listening to forest sounds. Listen. Work with the bomb consciously. You know things that can't be unknown now. Truth that could detonate, break down, destroy structures if spoken too soon. Strategic silence isn't complicit silence, it's about timing. So practice maintaining a bomb. Someone may reveal the truth to you and you may want to tell everybody else, but you may have to carry it for a bit. So maintain the bombs I'm carrying document, list truths but can't speak yet. For each, know what makes this explosive, who, what would it destroy if detonated, reveal, spoken now. What needs to happen first? Review monthly. Some bombs diffuse with time, some detonate when timing's right, some you carry forever. Know which is which. 4. Allow out of bounds depth. Right between August to October, from the 11th of August to the 16th of October when Pluto goes direct, but right up until the 10th of December, right, while Pluto stays out of bounds but direct in Pluto. This period goes deeper than the usual Pluto work. Safety protocols are offline, guardrails are gone. So during the out of bounds period, expect dreams more vivid, disturbing than usual, unconscious material coming more quickly, shadow work intensifying, power dynamics becoming unbearably visible. Don't try to moderate the intensity, because you can't. The pressure is the point, like deep sea diving. Ascend slowly, give yourself decompression time coming out of August, October. Don't make major life decisions immediately when Pluto goes direct on the 16th of October. Wait until you feel ready. Number 5, support the collective ascent, right? Your power work isn't solitary. The North Node in Aquarius says you're climbing with others. Even if you are working alone, graduate upwards, spaced at intervals, supporting each other, supporting others, supporting yourself when you can. Identify your climbing companions, your climbing friends, who's doing similar Pluto work, who stabilizes when you wobble. Who do you support when they're unsteady? As I said, create check-ins weekly, monthly during this retrograde. Set observations, listen to each other's bombs, witness each other's transformation. The stairs are collective. Your stability helps others climb. Other stabilities helps you climb, so it's like a give and take unity, right? So to integrate this energy, right, you've been given the map in May. The descent begins, go internal with the power work. August, below crust depth, go deeper than you thought possible. October is the resurrection, right? You return with the knowledge, and by February 2027 the integration should be complete. You're through it. This is a lived experience that you're about to have. May to October 2026 will be intense transformational work. You're going to die metaphorically through Pluto. Sometimes demands literal small depths, relationships, careers, identities. You're going to be reborn. You're going to emerge, come out again, with information the surface world doesn't have. So you have to go and spend some time on your own, because you're not going to get this by interacting with others. So what does that look like? What does working with Pluto energy look like? Well, you will know things about power you can't unknow. You'll see corruption you can't unsee. You feel the capacity you didn't have, more skilled. You'll claim authority you were taught wasn't yours. People will notice you're different, they say. Some will be drawn to this difference because they're ready for the depth. Some will be repelled by it because they're not ready. Both are okay. You're not here to make them comfortable. You're here to transform. Going back to the Leonard Cohen song, forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in, right? You're not trying to perfect yourself through this Pluto work. You're cracking yourself open so the light can enter. The student of nature lectures not from perfection but from observation. You have observed power, death, corruption and transformation. Now you teach from the cracks, from the wounds, from the depth. So the actual integration is, the sadder period ends February 2027. So your life should look different. Relationships that couldn't hold your transformation are gone. Ones that could are deeper now. Your career should reflect in-depth work, either a new role or the same role with a completely different approach. Your body moves differently, more grounded, more powerful, more present. Your voice speaks differently, more direct, less apologetic, more from the gut. Your boundaries are firmer. You know what's yours to hold and what's not. Your tolerance for bullshit is zero. You've been too deep to care about surface games. If you hit February 2027 and nothing actually has changed internally or externally, you have avoided the work, which means Pluto will come back in a different form until you face it. Death and rebirth aren't optional. It's all about timing. When you're ready. As I said, Pluto goes retrograde once a year, right? So once a year you get that chance to rebirth. This is what could happen if you take this chance. So ultimately, nature doesn't apologize for the winter. Seeds don't panic underground thinking I shall be growing. They trust the death phase is part of the cycle. The compost in darkness, breaking down to build up stronger. You're the seed right now. January to May was your planting. May to October is your composting, letting go, breaking down in darkness, trusting the process. October to February is your sprouting, where you emerge, come out, transform, using the rot, the compost, the decay as fertilizer. And by spring 2027, you'll be growing in directions you can't imagine from where you sit now, but only if you trust the composting, the letting go, only if you let the death be complete, only if you don't try to rush the underground transformation because you're scared of the dark. Pluto says the dark is where transformation happens. The depth is where power is claimed. The depth is where rebirth gestates, is born. Go down, go deep, go through it, come back, change, lecture, teach from your experience. That's the work, right? So yeah. That's the end of this very in-depth analysis of Pluto Retrograde 2026. The institution eats itself from within, so you eat yourself from within. The power structures that need to decay, be let go of. So yeah, I'm Imani, your holistic astrological life coach, and it's been my pleasure. Take care and see you next time.